Good morning. Okay, I'm going to start with a reading from Acts chapter 2, verses 44 through 47. All who believed were together and had all things in common. They would sell their possessions and goods and distribute the proceeds to all, as any had need. Day by day, they spent much time together in the temple. They broke bread at home and ate their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having the goodwill of all people. And day by day, the Lord added to their number those who were being saved. So I told Pastor Greg that the title of my talk is The Rich Life, because I'm here to tell you how, since graduating from TLU, I've made millions of dollars. Just kidding. Actually, I just wanted to check and see if you were awake. But it's been about 3.5 years since I graduated, and even though I don't really know most of you, it's been that long, I want to start by giving you a quick recap of the time between then and now. So after graduation, I spent 1 year serving as a grassroots activist in an organization in Washington, D.C. through Lutheran Volunteer Corps, where I worked to affect economic policy toward Latin America. Then I went to seminary for a year, but while I was there, the economy collapsed, the seminary closed, and I decided I wasn't sure if I wanted to be a pastor, at least at the moment. So I had to find something else to do. And I came across an opportunity to do a second year of service, this time in Austin through AmeriCorps Vista. In case you're wondering, VISTA stands for Volunteer in Service to America, which makes me feel very important sometimes. But in my first year as an AmeriCorps Vista, I went around cataloging the resources of the University of Texas at Austin that are available to the local Austin community, and identifying barriers that keep the university from being an effective partner for the community, and especially for the people in the community who have been underserved by the university historically. By the end of that second year of service, I felt like we were only beginning to make progress in this work, so I decided to stay on for another year of service, but this time in a leadership capacity. So now I take care of a team of 16 VISTA volunteers who work across the university, and I'm also part of a communications team that tries to get the word out about all the cool stuff that we have going on for the community to our interested partners. Some of you might not be that familiar with year-long service agencies, at least not as familiar as I am, so I thought I would take a moment to brief you on some of the specifics, just in case you're interested. Both Lutheran Volunteer Corps, or LVC as we call it, and AmeriCorps are similar programs in that they place volunteers with nonprofit organizations, service agencies, and sometimes universities, where the volunteer then spends a year working full-time to build the capacity of that organization. Instead of getting paid a salary, the volunteer receives a stipend that is roughly the equivalent to minimum wage. The volunteer also receives health insurance, transportation funding, and often an educational award of a little over $5,000 that can go to paying off student loans or paying for future school. As you might have already speculated, spending a year or 3 as a volunteer doesn't make you wealthy. But choosing service, I've found that I've reaped many other benefits. First, let's talk about economics, since that might be a turnoff for some of you about service. I think that one of the most valuable things about these years of service is how they've affected my relationship with money. Sure, when I lived in a house in DC with one other woman and 3 giant, always hungry men, we had to eat lots of lentils and beans and rice and that kind of thing. But it taught me that by prioritizing the material things that I truly need and keeping to a budget, I can hack it, which I think is really a great thing to do in an economy like this when we're not sure if it's going to turn around soon, to know that, if worse comes to worse, I'm doing all right. And I think that living on a stipend and being in service also helps me to not succumb to the commercialism and greed that are so rampant in our media and our society at large, which is a value that I hope that no matter what income I make, I can continue to hold on to. So one thing about LVC that's different from AmeriCorps is that it has a greater focus on spirituality and community. And it has the expectation that volunteers will live together in an intentional community, which is a house of about 5 to 7 volunteers. And when I was a senior in college here, I had a ton of anxiety that I would have to leave this little TLU community and go out into the real world. And to me, one of the best things about college was having a close-knit group of friends all within a 5-minute walk and being able to talk to them about what we wanted to do with our future and, what were our passions and goals and how did they relate to what we were studying and that kind of thing. And I didn't want to leave that tiny group. But Lutheran Volunteer Corps, getting confused, turned out to be a good transition for me because I made friends who are just as invested in finding purpose and meaning in their lives and building community with each other. One of the best parts of the year was spending time with my housemates in the 2nd and 3rd floors of the row house we shared in DC. Over home-baked bread and soup and, yes, lentils, we would talk about the ups and downs of our work and then move into the territory of what we were passionate about, our dreams for the future. There's an element of self-invention in being a 20-something, and to have the time and space to really work on that self-invention, to have the sounding board of your community can be invaluable in finding out who you are and who you want to become. Finally, service has allowed me to do work that is transformative for the larger community. Right now, part of my job is to guide the creation of an online portal, part of the UT website, that helps students, faculty, staff, and community organizations to connect and collaborate on projects that will benefit the public. And you can't find that kind of work everywhere, and I think that service is a really great place to start. First, I also want to mention something about how I chose the scripture today. I chose it because it reminded me of the community I've found through service. And in the text, the community of Jesus' followers has radically altered its way of being because of his teachings. They are a changed people, and they find that even in Jesus' long absence, somehow he's still with them, giving them power to live in a way that challenges the worldly values of the empire around them. In communities bound together by service today, I believe that there is still a flicker of that spirit, the spirit of that historical community that was in the text. When we counter greed by redistributing wealth, when we break bread together with friends, and when we work toward a world where there may be goodwill toward all, we are living into that history. It's the kind of experience that will live with you long after you have moved on. So I encourage all of you to find the form of service that is right for you, whether in a year-long program like Lutheran Volunteer Corps or AmeriCorps, or through a weekly opportunity at an area nonprofit. I hope that you'll consider this, and if you'd like to talk to me afterward, feel free to come up to me with any questions you have. Thank you.